Hey everybody, and welcome to Woodcrest Bonsai. The other day I did a video where I took ficus cuttings and I put them into small quote-unquote pots that were actually applesauce containers. And then I put them into a larger tray, like we see here, with soil so that the roots could move out of the holes in the small pots into the soil in the tray, which stabilizes them and also makes them much easier to water. And I had a comment wondering, don't the roots all turn into one giant mat, and then when you try to take them apart, aren't you going to damage the roots? And that's true. And this is a pretty good example of it. This is a much older group of Premna, and they are in much smaller pots. Actually, they're in a 3-ounce drink cup that I cut about half, poked holes in. And as you can see, they're beginning to break up. They're certainly not perfect as I pull a weed. But they have grown into one giant mass. The roots are super healthy though. So getting them apart, I'm going to have to cut each individual pot out of there. So I will be losing some roots. But it's basically just like root pruning, any other tree in training. And root pruning is just a part of bonsai. Today I'm going, and obviously I think it's pretty clear that these guys have been allowed to grow a little wild. So the next step I'm going to do on these guys is just cut them way back. And the first part is I'm going to cut back to a certain point, which will give me a much better view of each individual tree. And there's one thing about growing trees like this is it's hard to focus on one individual tree. There's no doubt about that, because they're all jammed together. And I probably allowed these guys to get a little bit too leggy. Should have cut them back sooner. The more you cut back, the more ramification you'll get, the more movement in your trunks you'll get, and the sooner it will happen too. I'm just gonna, I may go a little bit deeper once I see what I'm up against. And I've also got some pots to show you that are the size of the pot that these guys are going to go into eventually when I decide they're ready. And these are going to be small trees. These are all going to be Mames. Some may be a little bit taller. Some may be a little bit shorter. There's another weed. I find that weeds are not really all that bad when you do it like this. Sometimes. Alright, so here are the pots. And I just grabbed 4. There's 1. There's 2. Let me bring it down a little. There's 3. And there's 4. So they're all pretty small. So there's going to be some root pruning that's going to be necessary to get them into these pots anyway. So I don't worry about the fact that we're going to be removing the roots that are down in the soil. And actually, when I responded to the person's comment, and it just came to me, the roots that are in this soil are kind of like sacrifice roots, just like a sacrifice branch you use to thicken the trunk above the roots that are in this lower soil are sacrifice roots. So let's see, what have we got here? See, we've got some really nice movement in here. There's some extra branching that probably is not necessary. Here's another little guy. Let me do this. Try to do some close-ups. Okay, here's another little guy that has got, I'm going to take more off so we can see it better. So he's a cute little guy. He may be ready to be potted up because we have our first main branch. We have a second main branch that's a little small. This guy here is a little too low, but we have a decent apex coming. And it doesn't have massive trunk thickness, but it's got a decent nabari coming. And I may do that guy. So if we look, they've all got great potential to be cool little bonsai. And like I said, it's difficult to, here's one with a thicker trunk that has, if we get rid of some of this, has some very nice movement. And now you see all this little stuff that I cut that was really long. Now I'm going to cut that even further back, because now I can see what I'm doing more. And there are a couple of ones in here that I'm really happy with the way they're developing. Here's another one. It's got a nice sweep, got nice main branches that could be put into position, got a decent apex. See, there, now we've got extra growth from the one next to it. So here's another one that could very easily make, let me try to get him closer. Of course, all I have for a background is my hand, but I think it works. So there you go. Cut this away here. And so now I can take some of these much longer things and selectively remove them. There's another one in the middle here that has a very nice little fat trunk and is developing quite nicely. So this technique really works for me. I'm happy to use this technique. And I've said in other videos that when you do something like this, you're going to get some trees that are really cool, and then some that may not be so great. They may have some flaws, they may need more time, but that's really all it is they just need more time. Here's another one that is, pull off some of these leaves, get rid of the growth that's coming from its neighbor. There's another one. See, we've got to have this long leggy growth here, so I'm going to cut it back. Some more growth here. Another guy that's coming along very nicely. We've got some very low growth that needs to come off. And when I started doing this, I just really wanted to show my commenter what I was talking about. But now that I'm looking at them, there's quite a few in here that have really developed decently enough to go into bonsai pots. Little Mame guys. So I may do that. I may take a couple and turn them into bonsai. Here's another one that if we remove all this lower stuff, it would make an interesting little bunjin, little Mame bunjin. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this off, and then when we look at it like that, maybe having it in the screen might be good. There's a cool little tree, nice little sweep. need to develop this branch. So when you're doing it like this, you can't expect perfection. At this stage, but there are some nice trees in here, and I'm really happy with the way they've developed. So I think what I'm going to do, here's one here that really has just got not much of anything. It's just barely anything. All the growth went into this, which has thickened the trunk a little bit. So he's going to be one that's going to take a little bit more time. It just doesn't have much development at all. Here's another one that's an interesting tree. Now I forget which ones I've showed you. Another one that with just a little wiring, it's got really nice movement. So I think what I'm going to do is make an entirely separate video of actually putting some of these into bonsai pots. Because Premna, like the ficus that I just did, is a very tropical tree, and it will respond with new growth quite rapidly. Oh, and not every one of them is in these little drink containers. If you turn it around, there are some, these middle 1, 2, 3, 4 are in applesauce containers, and they have thicker trunks because they've had more space in the pot themselves to root out. But I love this technique. It works for me, because if you try to grow these guys, especially as leggy as they were individually, they'll be falling over on you constantly. And then the watering is also just a huge, Yeah, my producer. Where's my producer? Oh, I don't have a producer. Clean this stuff up here. Okay, so I'm going to end this video here and then take a number of these guys and put them into the pots that I showed you. I've got 4 pots, and I think I can probably, if we look at the pots again, we've got this much longer, thinner one, and we have one that's perfectly round. Then we have 2 scalloped ones, this green one, nice glaze, and this is all mass-produced stuff, none of it's super high quality. And then this one here too, this scalloped pot. So thanks for watching. I hope that helped explain my technique and my philosophy about why I do this. And I'm definitely going to take a couple of these guys and put them in these pots, but I'm going to do that in a completely separate video. So if you subscribe, you can see these guys develop. I also have 4 or 5 other Mame already potted, Premna, that need some work too, because even as a bonsai pot, I still allow a certain amount of excess growth and then cut back, and excess growth and cut back. I don't have the time with the amount of material that I have to keep everything in perfect condition. Just don't. So I'll also show you some of those in a previous video. I've done one video on those guys already. So how am I doing on time? I think I need to end. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.